Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. I'm your host, Dylan, along with my cousin and co-host,
Gab.
And today we are talking about a movie that I have picked. This is a movie from the start of the millennium, the horror movie. Would you call it a horror or a thriller?
A thriller.
The thriller movie, Final Destination.
Yeah.
Gab, you had never seen any of these?
None. Not a single one.
I think the most awareness you have of this entire franchise is one time I talked about something that happens in the fourth movie on this podcast.
Did you? Because I don't recall that.
I talked about a guy who'd been trying to kill himself all day and he couldn't do it because it was not allowed yet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I am interested in hearing how you felt being introduced to this franchise, if you'll watch more, yada, yada. But before we get into all of that, Gab, you got to tell me, what is the first Final Destination about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
Explain! As you would a child.
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Final Destination is about a young man who has a premonition that the plane he and his fellow students are about to get on is going to crash. He causes a riot. He and a few others get off of the plane. The plane takes off without them. It does crash. It explodes, etc. And essentially, they find out that Death had a plan for them. They evaded the plan, and now Death is coming for them one by one.
Pretty good. Pretty good. IMDb says, after getting a premonition about a plane crash on his school trip, Alex, a student, saves a few of his classmates. However, their situation gets complicated when Death starts chasing them. I think the only thing that I didn't like about what you said is a riot. I don't think a riot ensues on the plane.
I didn't say a riot.
You said I will roll back the tape, motherfucker, which I won't because that would take me far too much time. But you definitely said a riot.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, it felt a little rioty.
It's two kids fighting.
Well, it was like
you go to the playground
ruckus
on the weekend and you're like, enough, you toddlers with your riots.
It was a ruckus. Can you describe the ruckus still?
There was a ruckus. That's fair.
Thank you.
Gab, how many taglines would you like to hear?
All right. So my guess is there are 7 taglines for this film.
Gab, prepare for more taglines than you want.
Oh, no. Oh, make it quick.
Most people have dreams. For Alex, this is real.
Dumb.
Face your deepest fears, ... before they face you.
Dumb.
Death is the final destination. Boarding starts now.
You know what's weird? I don't hate that one.
I mean, it's better than the previous two. In the best twisted tradition of the Twilight Zone.
Come the fuck again?
A film that decapitates Scream 3.
Why would you do that's rude.
I think maybe it came out shortly after it. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's still rude. Like, don't. Can you imagine a poster being like better than that other movie that they've got playing right now?
You know what? I would respect it if it was like, that's a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Like, okay. On March 17th, figure out when it's coming back at them.
Nope.
That could also be the poster for a porn premiere.
Yeah, honestly.
Intervention comes at a price.
No.
That could also be a poster for the series Intervention.
Yeah.
No accidents, no coincidences, no escapes. You can't cheat death.
I don't hate that one.
Death doesn't take no for an answer.
Nope. That's my answer.
Can you cheat death?
No. And also, no, I don't like that one.
Death is coming.
Could also be for a porn.
The Grim Reaper.
Ew. Moving on.
Death doesn't take no for an answer.
Oh, we said that already.
I know, but the Grim Reaper.
Oh, goodbye.
I'll see you soon.
No.
Next stop, it's you. ...
Both terrible.
Last one, you've made it. Are you ready to match wits with the Grim Reaper?
No, bad.
Are you ready to match wits with the Grim Reaper?
Do you remember when I was in middle school and we had an assignment where we had to like write a paper about what we wanted to be when we grow up, and the kid in my class wrote he wanted to be a rapper, but he only spelled it with 1 P.
He should worry about his spelling before what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He wanted to be a professional 1P rapper.
He was gonna rap at all the cool parties.
He rapped for the ladies. He'd even rap for the gentlemen sometimes.
Yep. He wanted to be a yeah.
Well, Gab, I think we determined what it's about. Do you want to get straight to the opinions for Final Destination?
I think we need to.
In this critic's opinion,
That's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
So I have a real issue with the beginning of this movie, and I'm hoping maybe you can explain this to me, but I think it's just faulty writing.
With what specifically?
So when they arrive at JFK to get on their flight to go to Paris, the employees at JFK who are taking their luggage are French. Now, I understand they're boarding a French airline, but Dylan, the employees at JFK usually live near JFK.
I don't really remember that enough that I didn't jive with it. I don't know.
They make it such a. She's like, "Oh, bonjour, monsieur. Would you like to check your croissant?" And it's like they're at JFK.
I guess. I think it's just maybe to make sure that it's hammered in that's where they're going. Are you talking about the lady at the counter who says "Oh, your departure time is the same as your birthday"?
Yes, she's like, "Oh, monsieur,
I don't remember it being important that she's
time de departure." It's like, listen, understood, but also the people at JFK would be like, "Yo, who's next?"
I think it'll be a problem if that is the line between whether or not this is a movie to watch before you die, but I'm hoping it's not. It's just your first thing that you notice.
That was really just, I was like, this is ridiculous. Okay. So, but I do want to, that brings me to my next point, which is that the reason that stood out to me so much is because, Dylan, this movie takes place where we're from.
It sure does. They even talk about Nassau County Police.
Yeah, and they go to Jones Beach, and once they said JFK, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, wait a second. So the only time that they really specifically reference Long Island is Nassau County Police, and when they say, they go to Jones Beach, but otherwise they talk about being from Southeast New York, and I'm doing the South.
It's as southeast as it can be.
Yeah, that's Long Island. So they don't say Long Island, which is interesting. And it made me wonder if it had something to do with the Amityville Horror House.
I don't think so. But it would have been great if Terry Chaney gets hit by a bus right as she's leaving a bagel shop. Terry Chaney was coming out of town bagel with a pizza slice in the other hand, oh no.
There were a couple of times when I was like, if this were actually taking place on Long Island, it would be a little different in terms of the way the streets are set up. It has this very quaint New England-y town. And I'm like, yeah, we have main streets and shit, but it doesn't feel
There's not that many towns where there's a main street, I feel like. You know what I mean?
Really? No, you're out of your fucking mind.
I don't think every town feels like it has a main street. You know what I mean? I think there are a few towns where I think of oh yeah, there I would walk down what I would consider to be Main Street.
Yeah, the bangers. You got Sayville, you got Port Jeff, you got
Huntington,
Farmingdale,
Garden
I think
City, of the Nautical Mile in Freeport.
Yeah. See, there's a lot of them. And then once you go out east even further, forget it. All of those towns, East Hampton, Southampton,
West Hampton, Northampton.
Exactly. Yeah. Montauk.
Yeah. These are all places that the Music Man has pulled Film Flammery over.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, yeah. I did think it was really cool that they were from where we're from. So go ahead. You can share something now that I've shared the bangers, the most important parts.
Okay. Obviously, we're going to spoil everything. I don't know why it happened to be this time. Maybe it's because I watch Law and Order SVU a lot of the time when I'm going to sleep. So I feel like I just have it in my head a lot of the time. And I kind of just pictured Detective Tutuola, Ice-T's character, being at the scene of every death, afterwards. It would be the cold open to every SVU would be Tutuola at another crime scene. And the first one where it's Todd, I feel like he would be kind of questioning it. He'd be like, wait, this kid died from choking? Was he doing it to get off of anything? You mean just because he's sad? And then I just pictured for every consecutive death, he would start to believe more and more that they killed themselves. He would. Yeah. Where do I have the next one here? So she didn't even try to look both ways, and she was giving a speech while she's walking in the middle of the street. This is a clear-cut suicide.
It's your impression has just enough George Foreman in it.
And then I just so how this stiff-looking kid know it would kill him and know this was coming, or did he just do this while the train was passing by, like he cut his own head off?
Wait, Now it sounds like fucking.
It's turning into Mike Tyson.
It's turning into Mike Tyson, yeah, with the lisp.
And it's not a very good Mike Tyson either.
Oh boy. I mean, yeah, I get it. I agree. I think so. You know, one time Ice-T told me that I was beautiful.
Was Coco there?
No, God, no.
I was going to
Coco
say.
could never find out.
You gotten fucked up.
Yeah. I think we need to discuss the plane crash.
What about the plane crash?
So there are a couple of things that I want to talk about. First of all, this movie came out in 2000, so pre 9/11, which I think is very interesting. And there's a lot of pre 9/11 in this movie. You can kind of feel when they're at JFK and they're kind
if they had just taken their shoes off, this never would have happened.
Right. Yeah. So there's that.
If only they had taken their laptops out of the suitcases, then this plane crash never would have happened.
Exactly. They would have been much safer. But you know, we see the premonition of the plane crash, and it's very like the way that it happened as a first time viewer, I felt like, oh, this is obviously not really happening. Because it felt like too like exaggerated. And then when they did it, like it happened for real, I thought, oh, this is just the way this movie is. Like, at first I was like, this is ridiculous, right? It wouldn't happen like this. And then I was like, oh, no, it is happening like this. And I say that for a few reasons. Number one, they really weren't that high off the ground. And I have a hard time believing that it would be that bad for that long if they had only been off. They weren't even at altitude yet. I mean, Sully landed a plane in the fucking Hudson River. And that's where they're taking off from, you know?
I guess I didn't realize you had such plane expertise, Gab. Please go
Dylan,
on.
as someone who refuses to die in a plane crash, I know all the signs and signals. But I do think it's interesting. You know, the door, the side of the plane gets ripped off. That happened pretty recently. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Were people like, "Oh my God, Final Destination"?
I mean, I feel like anytime somebody dies in a slightly ridiculous manner, like something you wouldn't expect a person to die from, I feel like these movies in this series comes up. And that's why I feel like I kind of think that these movies are brilliant conceptually. Like, say what you want about the movie. I think concept is a banger. This idea that you cheated death and death is like, well, I got to make right. You know what I mean?
I'm coming back for you.
Yes. I think that's such a cool idea in a sense that it's not Freddy Krueger where you can take him out of the dream and beat him. It's not Jason Voorhees where he's a big lumbering dude. It is no, there is an unspeakable entity that is coming back and you are not supposed to be here.
Yeah. And death was never personified.
Yes. I think the closest they get, and this is the only movie that does it, is sometimes they'd have like a shadow would move in the background, like in a mirror or in a computer screen. And this is the only time they did it. I feel like they were like, general audiences are too stupid. We'll have to make sure that they know it's like something's in the room with him. Like,
yes. Yeah. Yes.
But I think what I love about these movies, and I think they play it up more and more as the movies go on too, is the very heightened dramatic irony that we as an audience know death is coming after them. You know, Todd doesn't realize it, but we can see that liquid's coming out and it's like, oh, he's about to plug something in while he's touching the water. Oh, and he doesn't do it. And then it's like, oh, no. Like, you just have that constant feeling of like, I know something is coming.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. When he shaves his face, first of all, who dry shaves?
I mean, I've done it, but
that's unhinged.
I've only done it in a pinch type scenario, but also who shaves when they have the most cleanest shaved face you've ever seen?
Oh my God,
never hair on his face.
Looked like a toddler, and he went directly for the carotid artery. He's like, yes, this is where I must shave right now. Ridiculous.
I will say his death scene, I feel like, is one of the more like hard to watch ones because it goes on for so long. And like you have that moment where you see his eyes turn red from blood and you're like, oh God.
Yeah, it was gnarly. And I actually was really grateful that none of the other death scenes were as bad.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there was a lot of cognitive dissonance for me because on the one hand, I was like, this is so ridiculous that like the cord wrapped around his neck so many times and this happened and that happened and whatever. But at the same time, as much as it was ridiculous, it was like, oh, I'm watching this person die, right? And I did feel a little bit like the scenario probably like you probably would have lived, but I guess you have to suspend your disbelief that death was not going to let you live.
I was going to say they actually do a reshoot because of what you're talking about. So the thing that they added after the fact is him kicking over like the shampoo bottle so that there's liquid in the tub so he can't stand up. Because otherwise your first thought would be like, let me try and remain calm and just place my
And
feet
stand up.
underneath me. Yeah. And that's
Yes,
why you
yeah.
have to show his feet not being able to place.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad that they thought about that. But even still, it was a little like, surely in a life or death situation, you will live. Like we are wired to survive.
I don't know, man. If you can't get your footing, how are you going to do it?
Wasn't he wearing pants? Just put your knee down.
He can't put his knee down. He's not that low. He's low enough to stand. He's not low enough that he can be on his knees.
Okay. All right. Fine. But anyway, I
This
digress.
isn't important. You know what is important? Yeah. Todd's dad, who I understand has just lost both of his sons, says the most unhinged thing I can think of to a child, where he says, you caused Todd so much guilt over George staying on the plane, he took his own life. And it's like, first of all, that's a leap. Second of all, what a horrible thing to say to your son's best friend, whose best friend also just died.
I really feel like I can't imagine being able to process something in so quickly that you've come to a conclusion, right? Like, have you ever had something happen to you where you're just like flabbergasted for like weeks and you're like, I can't even make sense of this. I feel like that's what happens when somebody dies suddenly.
Yeah. But you know what speaking of that feeling, I feel like because it is something so ridiculous, I do love the fact that I kind of feel like the people react in a way that I think I would. Like everybody is terrified of Alex right after this happens, because even though he like couldn't make the plane explode, there's something so freaky about him. And he has this line where he says, you're looking at me as if I caused this. I didn't cause this. And somebody goes, are there any survivors? And he goes, how should I know? Like they think he's just omniscient now.
Yeah.
Same
I did
thing
appreciate that.
when the cops are talking to him too. And they say, the FBI says, did the weird feelings have anything to do with your saying you wish that Carter Horton was on the plane just before it exploded? And he goes, no. And he go, then why'd you say it? And he says, because I didn't really think it was going to happen. It's like, even though he had this vision and he was freaking out, nobody believes, like, he thought he would end up on a plane to France 3 hours later. You know what I mean? He freaked out in the moment, as anyone would if you just had a vision of yourself dying and everyone you know dying. I don't know. It's also that you have that scene too with the memorial, and you get Sean William Scott as Billy, and he's, going, should I ask this girl out? Like, just because he thinks like he'll know.
Yeah. Like he can just see the future.
Yeah.
So as this happens, right, we kind of get a group of friends. Friends is a loose term, but we get a group of students who are all now bonded by this experience. We've got the idiot jock, Sean William Scott.
I don't think he's supposed to be a jock.
Okay, well, I'll just go fuck myself then.
You're right. That wasn't worth stopping you over. Sorry, you were saying you got Billy Hitchcock, played by Sean William Scott.
This kid, we got Alex, we got the fucking weirdo girl, and then we got the two popular kids, right? And the teacher.
And the teacher who, what was it that she says? Don't talk to me. You scare the hell out of me. Is what she says to Alex.
Which is so crazy. And then
kind of fair.
I don't know. For a teacher, you can't be saying that shit to kids.
She's leaving.
I mean,
she's leaving that school anyway. I would be like, you're a freak and you are terrifying. I would have said exactly what you said, quite frankly.
Damn. All right. That's fair. I feel like her storyline was so fucking ridiculous. Her whole thing, from not how guilty she felt, because that I understand. I'd feel guilty too. But the like, I'm leaving, I'm packing up all my stuff and getting out of here. And the like, she, I'm processing this as I'm saying it, so bear with me. I feel like how she died was really ridiculous, number one. And then number two, the fact that she and all of the others witnessed the girl get hit by the bus. I feel like none of them were traumatized enough. There wasn't enough like to do about another one dying.
I do feel like Alex gets to a point where he's just like, all right, I messed up that one. I didn't see the side of that one. And he's just like rolling with them now. He's like, you tricky bastard, you. And I think that's because this movie doesn't want to be 2 hours. I think it's an hour and 38 minutes. So we could make it longer to have those scenes, but I think we get a couple of moments. Like, I really appreciate that it's so quick, but we see Alex get home with his parents, and it's just, there's no dialogue. We just see him get into his room. He puts his bag down and he just starts crying. You know what I mean? Because obviously we see him watching the news and he's distraught. They're all going to be traumatized, but the movie's not about having the time to experience that trauma with them, because Death's coming for them, and it's not. You don't have time to be traumatized. You have time to die.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, since you brought up Miss Luden and her death, I realized I didn't read my Ice-T one for her. So hold up. Her computer exploded, and then her vodka exploded, then her house exploded before she stabbed herself. This is the weirdest suicide yet. that was my thought for that one. Yeah.
And then I thought it was interesting that they were like, your footprints caramelized in the blood. Like, did they?
Agent Shrek is coming to take you out of his swamp.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was silly.
What is silly is him being like, let me pull the knife out of your chest. That will surely help.
Yeah, yeah. So I was going to say, I feel as though keeping the knife in is the important part.
That's a very movie thing. I think most people know in real life, like, it never helps to yank the knife out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I had a like combat choreography class where we were learning how to like essentially like fight and shit on stage and not hurt each other. And we had a lesson in stabbing, and they brought in like a big beef carcass, like one from Rocky, and they gave us knives and they were like, stab it. But they were like trying to get us to understand how personal stabbing somebody is, because you can shoot somebody from far away.
Yeah.
But when you stab them, you have to get like really close. And it was like, it stuck with me. Like like when somebody gets stabbed, that shit is fucking real.
Do you think death feels the same way when it uses a computer to stab somebody in the neck?
Yeah, probably. Absolutely.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like the thing, this is the last thing I'll say about stabbing somebody, but from experience, I can tell you, you have to push really hard. It's not easy. So you have to be, you can pull a trigger in a moment of like, but like, if you're going to stab somebody, you can break the skin, but if you really want to kill them, you have to be like, I'm still pushing. It's crazy.
Just so you know, Gab's advice is just get a gun.
Yeah. Keep it as impersonal as possible. To cut the small talk and get it over with.
You're just making me think of that Saving Private Ryan scene though, where we just see like he's on top of the other guy as he just slowly pushes the knife into him. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Dylan, I'm embarrassed to say I've never seen that movie.
You know where I saw it for the first time? At Aunt Dawn's mom's on a 4th of July party.
I vaguely remember this party.
And I think it was like with her dad that I was watching, and I was like, yes. I'm in this. Yes. I was like, whoa. I got wrapped up in it. Yeah, good movie.
Yeah. You know, Russ died.
Jesus Christ. Was it some kind of Final Destination?
I'm just saying.
I know. What do you want me to? I can't do anything with that right now, Gab.
Sorry, I'm just saying it was probably like 5-10 years ago. Yeah, he died.
I figured. Yeah.
Maureen, very much still alive.
That's good. I also figured.
Yeah. Okay. So, I do want to talk about the railroad track scene.
Okay.
They are driving in a car. And basically the driver, has decided that he doesn't care. Like, he's not letting death take him. He's going to end his own life. He's like, fuck this, I'm in charge. So he decides he's going to do something stupid while he's driving the car. Eventually, what this comes to is parking on the train tracks and allowing a very Long Island, right? Allowing the train to run him over. Mm-hmm. And everybody gets out of the car except for Carter. And Alex has a premonition of the seatbelt tearing if he can rip him out, I guess. Mm-hmm. So he rips him out of the car and saves his life. Now, number one, with the plane crash that we got, I would have thought the train hitting the car would have been more dramatic, like an explosion or something.
Why? Because I feel like it is dramatic in the sense of like it does seem huge at the moment, and because it does such a good job of very quickly cutting away. Like, it cuts away so fast that I'm like, did Carter and Alex get out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I just felt like there was going to be more of a like payoff to the moment of impact.
Okay.
There is absolutely no like police intervention after that, right? Like, we don't hear anything about like.
I assume, well, I know for a fact actually that the police do come afterwards. And I assume that that's why Carter tells Alex to get out of there, because he's going to stay and talk to the police.
Got it. Okay. And then he goes to like the hideout.
Yeah.
And lastly, when they were driving around in the car, this was a moment where I thought to myself, I know exactly what's going to happen here. I've seen enough. I know I've been alive long enough. I know the tropes. And I specifically Final Destination, I thought they are going to get on the LIE, the Long Island Expressway, and they're going to be behind a lumber truck. And the lumber is going to come off the back through the front windshield and kill somebody in the car. And then it didn't happen. And then I thought, did I make that up? Isn't that from Final Destination?
That is not from the first Final Destination, but yes, that is I'd say that's become the most famous kill of the series. That's from Final
Yeah.
Destination 2.
Okay, because every time I'm behind one of those trucks, I'm like, nope.
Which I really think speaks to the impact of this series, that you've never even seen the movies, but you're aware of that like that really penetrated people's consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was shocked. I really thought that that was what was going to happen. So anyway, then he goes to the hideout and he's like trying to outsmart Death. We have this almost like Karate Kid style scene where he's like preparing
I
for
don't think,
Death's arrival.
no. You're making it sound like there's a montage of him like placing
Training.
band-aids on himself and training on how to like keep things from happening. You get like one moment of him taping things over, putting corks on the tops of nails. But I do love that scene where Death always comes on the wind in this franchise, that anytime the wind is blowing, it's like Death has entered the chat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really enjoy when he stops that door from falling and he looks inside and he picks up this fish hook and he goes, rusted, tetanus, nice one. like he's in the middle of a chess match with Death. Like, clever.
Yes. Yeah. I want to talk about the German Shepherd.
The German Shepherd. Okay. Clear Rivers, which is a very interesting character name.
The whole time I was like, it's Claire, right? They're just saying
No, it
Claire,
is
kind of
Clear.
weird.
Which apparently was based on the name of like two actual people that were assistants to two of the people on this movie. That I'm like, so Clear Rivers is based in reality?
That's
Okay.
crazy.
But the German Shepherd, you were saying, she has her dog tied up outside when lightning storm is starting to get bad.
First of all, do not tie your dog up outside.
If you don't have a fence, I kind of get it, but you should be supervising them then.
Supervise it and
Yeah.
don't leave the dog in the rain. Don't be upstairs panicking about how you're about to die and leave the dog to, like, could you fucking not? What is wrong with people?
Well, I appreciate that she does go and save the dog, and then the dog says, fuck this, and it's like, bye. The dog immediately is like, good luck.
Yeah, well, what else could the dog do?
I don't know, but the dog was not like, I'm going to stick around and see it through with my owner. The dog went, no.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah.
I hated that and I felt so bad. She was like, run to the dog. And I'm like, this dog cannot fend for itself.
Can you imagine if she'd been like, stay? And the dog was like, I don't want it.
I don't know. That just like, that gave me the ick.
No, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And then, to wrap things up, the person who is clearly not a jock dies.
Billie, we talked about it. The train gets, his kappa is detated.
Oh, yeah, he gets
Mhm.
decapitated. Yeah. Yeah. That was gross, but not as gross as the first death.
I think if you pause it, it's really gross because you can see that like it's not his neck that gets cut. It's right by like the mouth is where his head gets cut off.
Yeah.
Which I'm somebody who's gone back and watched this and been like, if you pause it at the exact moment, you can see the prosthetic head that they made. But
Oh, interesting.
it doesn't look that much like Sean William Scott when you pause it. That's why it's clearly a very quick, like, let's show it roll a couple times and then away.
Yeah. And then finally, the last person that death comes for is Clear. And that is because the order that they recognized the plane would have exploded in, they assumed was predicated on Alex moving his seat, but it was not. So he had already been skipped.
It wasn't up to him yet because he was sitting in the very back of the plane.
I understand.
So Clear
Okay.
was sitting in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, she would have been next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Clear.
Which I don't think we even really stated that Alex is able to identify. The news talks about how the plane explosion happens and the path of the explosion that would have started it. And he's able to line up and trace where each person would have been sitting and realizes that death is coming for them in the order they would have died in the actual accident, in his premonition.
Right. So when Clear's house is like in the lightning storm and there's like wires that are flying around in the rain and whatnot, She gets into the car and is grounded by the tires, which, by the way, I immediately identified get in the car because you're grounded by the tires.
Mhm.
And I felt like a fucking genius.
I well, then that's the moment where you're like, obviously, this movie is 100% factual, and I'm smart.
Yeah, death couldn't get me because I'd be like, nope, getting in the car.
I do love that Alex comes over like, I will help, and immediately shoves like an exploding canister underneath the car. And he's like, I've made it worse.
Yeah, yeah.
He goes from stay in the car to the car's gonna explode.
Yeah. I feel like if I were Clear, I'd have taken my dog and I'd have just gone in the car. And then we both could have been okay.
I guess Death is going hard for a minute there when she's back in the house and he's like, all glass explodes now.
Yeah, but I was like, this is dumb. Yeah, and then Alex kind of takes one for the team and shock, surprise, surprise, wouldn't you know, he lives.
Yeah, which apparently they tested like several versions of that. There is a version where he dies, but he and Clear had already gone together, and we see at the end Clear with his baby.
I'm sorry.
I think that feels like a bit of a leap because the movie in the final cut does not have that much of a relationship between them in that sense, like a very romantic relationship.
Although there are a couple of times when she calls him baby, and I'm like, excuse me?
Them getting together, which I think you can tell by the last scene where they do make it to Paris, that they like seem to be in a relationship now.
Yeah, but it was just weird because it all felt like it was happening over the course of a couple of days. So it's like, at what point did you guys like grab a coffee, you know?
Well, I really appreciate, we have the interstitial that says 6 months later when they do go to Paris. And I'm like, Death said, let me circle back, come up with something good, and I'll come back at these motherfuckers.
Yeah. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to clear my head. And when I'm ready, I'll execute my next plan.
That said, I keep putting off that tsunami. Like, I have to get back on that.
There are so many people in Japan that need handling.
Yes. Did you like the ending that, like, I think we get this feeling of, well, once Death skips you, it's sort of done. The movie sort of says, and I guess you maybe get the sense that maybe Alex got skipped because maybe he did die briefly and they brought him back type of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the idea that Death is like, no, I just circle back to the top of the list.
Yeah. It definitely felt like, oh, there's money here, which I don't have a problem with. But I think looking at this now through the lens of somebody in 2025, it's like, of course there's a fucking sequel, right? In 2000, maybe it would have felt different.
Yeah, I do think that this doesn't feel like a movie that was made to be a franchise starter at first. And I think they definitely tighten up some of these things, like the kills get more ridiculous, you know what I mean? Like a bit more graphic type of thing, especially. You have one of these sequels is in 3D, which is definitely the worst one. I think for the most part, though, this is a pretty consistent franchise where it's consistently good. It sticks to the rules that it establishes in this movie for the most part, while maybe adding one or two things down the road. Like in the second one, they're like, this time Death is working backwards on the list. And you're like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just like, sure. Death said, eh. How did you feel about the character of William Bloodworth?
I'm sorry, who is that?
Played by Tony Todd. Maybe he doesn't get a name in this one, the mortician.
Oh, yeah, that was the moment where I was like, is this movie dumb?
What do you mean? Why do you say that?
Because he was like so abundantly creepy, where it was like he almost kind of like came out of Young Frankenstein, and then they like were like, sorry, we broke in, and then like, no problem.
I do think the idea of the scene is ridiculous to get there, that they're like, maybe if I see Todd one more time, but I do really like that character, and they've dispelled this. But when I first watched this movie, like one of the producers has come out and said this isn't the case, but I was like, this guy obviously is Death, right? And he's like just giving them a warning, like, I'm gonna see you soon. You know what I mean? And they've said that that's not the case. And actually, they've done 6 of these movies now. The 6th one just came out a couple months back. And the 6th one actually gives him more backstory. And I was like, that is really cool, actually. Like, not that he's a crucial character in any of these movies, but by the time you get to the 6th movie, it kind of makes more sense as to his existence.
Yeah, that feels like it would be a lot more interesting if I had any further viewership of this franchise, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Do you think you would watch any more of these? I don't think a single one of them is over 2 hours. I'll say that.
Well, then certainly
It's got that going for it.
It's got that going for it, which is nice. I think, this is not my genre. It has never been my genre. It probably never is going to be my genre. I don't know that I would like seek it out. But if it were on, I think I'd maybe be interested in like how I don't know. It just like doesn't.
I think I would say at a minimum, it would be worthwhile if like you and Corey have nothing to watch one day, checking out 2 and 3, because 2 and 3 is where you get like the log truck and you get some of the most famous kills and moments of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would maybe like those. I think 2 is a little bit more absurd at times, but I think it knows it is too.
Yeah.
Besides that, I don't think I have many opinions left other than I hope that you liked it.
Well, then let's go to the facts.
I want the truth!
Face the facts, dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
On the Rotten Tomato meter, this is given a 49% with 78 fresh reviews and 82 rotten. The audience score is 68% with an average score of 3.7 out of 5. IMDb gives it a 6.7 out of 10. It had a budget of $23 million. It grossed $113 million worldwide. The critics' consensus, despite a panel of X-Files alums at the helm and a promising premise, flighty performances and poor execution keep Final Destination from ever taking off. Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars. He said the vision of the airplane crash is remarkably scary, and other scenes like a car stopped on railroad tracks work, even though they're cliches, because of the dialogue and the motivations of the characters. Barbara Schulgasser from the Chicago Tribune.
Oh, boy.
The writing by Wong, Glenn Morgan, and Jeffrey Reddick meets the low standards of a mediocre TV movie. Terry Lawson from the Detroit Free Press. It's a first-class idea turned into a coach ticket ride.
Oh.
Jay Carr from the Boston Globe. It starts by cheating death and ends by cheating us.
Oh, yeah.
Now we got some Letterboxd reviews. This one's from Single White Femalian. Final Destination is my favorite movie because the boys go poop together. I love positive depictions of male friendship. Yes, we stand boys who are regular.
Okay, sure.
Adam Balt, all those elaborate deaths, and then that one girl just gets hit by a bus.
Yeah, truly.
Hey, sometimes you take the layups. You know what I mean? Like Death is shooting 3-pointers out here, and he's like, "You gonna let me score?" Sure. Rachel Rhodes. Alex is a clammy, sweaty-looking bitch, but I like him, especially when he's told about the weird art piece inspired by him, and he apologized because it's fuck ugly. Josefina, Girl on the Shore. If only Mark Wahlberg had been on the plane, none of this would have happened. That's my favorite one. You've heard the story of him saying that about 9/11, right?
Yeah.
What an unhinged thing to say.
So fucked up.
Oh, okay. The movie was directed by James Wong, who also directed The One, Final Destination 3, and Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh, Corey will be excited to know that.
And it probably was the end of him directing. That probably got him put in movie jail.
Why?
Oh, because Dragon Ball Evolution was a massive bomb and panned as a terrible movie. That's not his fault. Like, he didn't write it, but yeah.
Is it related to the cartoon?
It is. It's a live action adaptation of it.
Oh, I'm sure nobody wanted that.
The screenplay was written by Glenn Morgan, James Wong, and Jeffrey Reddick, who also wrote The X-Files, Willard, The Commish, and Final Destination 3.
Did you like The X-Files?
I've never seen it.
Me neither.
I feel like I have to at some point, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Have you ever seen The Wire?
I have.
Is it worth it?
It's very good. Like, the story is great. I just don't feel like I connect to it that much, but I can recognize that it's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't connect with it the way I do with Breaking Bad or The Sopranos or even like an Oz, because I don't connect with the characters as well, but it is really good.
Okay. Thank you. Did you ever watch House of Cards?
I watched the first couple seasons and it was pretty good, but I didn't last with it.
Yeah. Kevin Spacey. You needed Kevin Spacey, you know?
Do we?
Well,
he is a really good actor, but not a good guy.
No, but in the show,
obviously,
it
he's
was
the most
important.
part of the show.
Yeah, like when they got rid of him, it was kind of like, what are like?
It was
we
like,
got to be honest with ourselves. Yeah. We can't keep doing this. Anyway, as you were.
One show I'm going to recommend real quick. I just watched Slow Horses on Apple TV. That's really cool.
Okay, Apple TV I pay for now, against my will, but I haven't watched anything on it except for the Mets.
Watch The Studio.
I know. I hear that. Okay.
And Severance.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Yes. Where were we? Final Destination stars Devon Sawa as Alex Browning, who you may know from Little Giants, the Chucky TV series, Hard Eyes, and he is, of course, Stan from the Stan music video.
So when we were watching it, Corey was like, God, this kid looks a lot like the kid who was Stan in the Stan music video. And then he like pulled up a picture and I was like, that's definitely him. And then we looked and it said Devin Sawa and
It
we
sure
were like, oh my
is.
God, it is him, which is crazy. He seemed to do a really good job in that video. Do you like that song?
I do.
Me too.
Yeah. Ali Larder as Clear Rivers, who you may know from Heroes, Legally Blonde, Jan Silent Bob Strike Back.
Who is she in Legally Blonde?
She is. I was getting liposuction. She's the one that she's defending.
Oh my God, I did not realize that. Wow.
She's younger than me. Did you know she's younger than me?
That is so funny. Wow. Time is weird.
Kara Smith as Carter, who you may know from Dawson's Creek and My Bloody Valentine. Kristen Cloak as Val Luton, who you may know from Lady Bird and Black Christmas. Chad Danella as Todd Wagner, who you may know from Saw 3D, or that episode of SVU where Kathy Griffin is the leader of a lesbian protest group who's turned bisexual by how hot she thinks Christopher Maloney is.
You know, we've all been there.
Hey, he's hot. We could all say it.
He's a good-looking guy.
Good-looking
Phenomenal
guy.
actor.
Yeah. He plays a can of beans in Wet Hot American Summer, and he plays the shit out of it.
He does.
Yes.
It's hard for me to imagine Christopher Maloney doing anything but SVU.
Wait, no. He's the cook who talks to the can of beans. The can of beans is H. John Benjamin. My mistake.
Oh, okay. Yeah. H. John Benjamin, I mean.
Where was I? Sean William Scott as Billy Hitchcock, who you may know from the American Pie movies as Stifler and Role Models. And Tony Todd as the Mortician, who you may know from Candyman and The Crow. The movie won Saturn Awards, which are from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror for Best Horror Film and Best Performance by a Younger Actor for Devon Sawa, which I should have looked up. What is the criteria for younger actor?
Yeah.
How old do you have to be? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for some fun facts?
Please.
The story was originally going to be the concept for an episode of The X-Files, and it was inspired by another movie called Sole Survivor from 1984. In the movie, a woman who was the sole survivor of a plane crash starts to be haunted by dead people that death uses temporarily as vessels trying to kill her to correct its plan and killing everyone who suspects it. The exterior of Mrs. Luton's house was built in 5 days. The residents of Vancouver didn't want the filmmakers to blow it up because they thought it was a nice house.
It was all right.
Doesn't that sound so nice and Canadian?
So Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh, leave it. It's nice.
Come on.
I can't do Canadian.
What are you doing about it? Much of the news footage shown is actual footage from a July 1996 explosion and crash of TWA Flight 800 off East Moriches, Long Island.
First of all, it's Moriches.
More riches, more bitches. That's what I always say.
East Moriches. That's really, my parents were at a concert that night and they saw it explode. That's like their whole fucking claim to fame.
Wait, really?
Apparently, unless I'm mistaking it for a different Flight 800.
Speaking of Flight 800, the July 17th, 1996 flight was also carrying a high school French club. They exploded suddenly and was investigated for a possible deliberate act causing the accident. First a bomb, then a surface-to-air missile. As with this film, it was ultimately decided that the crash was a result of mechanical failure and explosion in the central fuel tank.
Are you a nervous flyer?
Yes, but most specifically, I'm a nervous takeoff and lander. I don't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is fair because that's when the problems happen, right? When you're cruising at altitude, you typically don't have a problem.
It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is fine. I'm also a little bit of a nervous flyer, which is crazy because I used to travel by myself for Cycle Bar all the time. And I definitely had a couple of experiences where I was like grabbing the hand of the person next to me, the complete fucking stranger, like this plane is about to go down. And I've had some rough landings. But now I feel like this has opened my eyes to all new sorts of things that could go wrong. So thank you.
You're welcome. The music played throughout the film is John Denver, a musician who died in a plane crash only 3 years before this film was made.
Oh, boy.
Which they do say that. I think Alex says it in the bathroom. He's like, John Denver died in a plane crash. And I don't know if you noticed how many times they play John Denver in this movie, but they play it sometimes. It'll be in ridiculous places. Like when they are in France, the guy is playing it on the violin. He's playing John Denver.
Yeah. I don't give a fuck about John Denver, just so you know.
I think I know like 2 songs by Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and James Taylor can both go fuck themselves as far as I'm concerned.
That's so funny. Yesterday I was like, John Denver and James Taylor, that's 2 different guys, huh? Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy. You wouldn't think so, but apparently it is. And both of them are meaningless to me.
Yeah. Like I'm generally aware of a couple of songs by each.
Yeah.
The Chinese title of the film translates as The Death God Comes.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. And you'd be surprised by the spelling. No, you wouldn't. In the last scene at the cafe, the sign that breaks free from its holding brackets spells 180 in reverse.
What?
The sign is specifically for Le Miro 81. So as it's falling, it flips down to 180, the sign that's going to hit Carter.
Okay, but what? Who cares?
Flight 180. It's all part of the signs.
Oh, got it.
Additionally, there's an Easter eggs during the opening credits. You have the figure, the shadow of the figure in Alex's room looks like it's hanging, which of course, Todd. One of the books opens to a guillotine, Billie. You have a bunch of signs like that are in the background that you might miss. Clear Rivers is named after Glenn Morgan and James Wong's assistants. The Rivers surname came from a family relation of one of the crew. So that is based on two real people. There is somebody named Clear, and obviously there are people with the last name Rivers.
Well, good for them.
Yeah. When everyone stares at Alex after the plane explodes, both Terry and Billie's deaths are foreshadowed. While Terry is staring at Alex, there's a picture of a bus in the background. While Billie is looking up at the plane taking off, the reflection of the plane is shown across his face, flying in a line right where the piece of the car decapitates him later in the film. Alex is almost killed 7 times, and nearly killed in an explosion, almost run over by a train, almost impaled in the face by branches, almost drowned after a tree falls on him, almost electrocuted while saving Clear, almost run over by a bus, and almost crushed by a neon sign. Could be 8 times if we believe his suspicion that the rusty fishhook would have given him tetanus.
Interesting.
And the last one I have here, I think I had alluded to this, but a romantic subplot between Alex and Clear is deleted from the final cut. The infamous beach scene originally ended with both of them kissing, and Clear later finding out she's pregnant. There's an alternate version of the scene where Alex saves Clear from the wires, but dies from the electrocution and catching fire. Clear then has her baby, whom she names Alex, and together with Carter, she creates a plaque for their 5 deceased friends, which is placed in front of the memorial. When Carter laments that Alex never got to see his son, Clear assures him that he does, as she feels Alex's presence every day. A romance between Alex and Clear without a pregnancy is retroactively used in the sequel.
Okay.
Gab, that's all the facts I got.
So let's go to the verdicts.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Gab, it's my movie. I'm going first. I think Final Destination is a movie to watch before you die. Not for the performances, not for the story, but first and foremost for the concept. And I think it's a really great concept that really spawns something that, like I said, I believe to be a high quality franchise as far as horror thrillers go. Because if you think of, your Friday the 13th, your Halloweens, you get 80% bad, maybe 10 to 20% good. You know what I mean? I think with the Final Destination, I'd say they've just come out with a 6th movie. I think 5 of 6 of them are good to really good. You know what I mean? Or at a minimum, a lot of fun. The only one that's bad is the 3D, The Final Destination. Only bad one.
Isn't there another one coming out soon?
Like I said, Final Destination Bloodlines is the one that came out like a month and a half ago, I want to say. And that I think was surprisingly great. I think that it comes up with a formula that works really well. I think it comes up with rules that work really well. And I think you and I have talked about before that I think it's important in a movie that if you establish rules, you got to follow those rules.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I think it's a movie to watch before you die. Oh, one other thing I want to mention too. I really like the score for the movie, and I looked up who does the score because I think the score at times is like that. You know what I mean? I think it's cool in the background. It's Shirley Walker. Now, Gab, you may be saying Shirley Walker. Who's that? I don't care. But there are people in this audience who will care because Shirley Walker did the music for Batman the Animated Series.
Wow. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Well,
Gab.
you know what? First, I was going to say it wasn't a movie we watch before you die, but now that I know that.
No!
Now I'm going to sing a different tune. So I want to kind of echo what you said, that it's definitely not a movie to watch for the story. And it's definitely not a movie to watch for the performances. But the concept is really cool. And I do think it has permeated pop culture so much that even as somebody who had never seen the movie, I understood, I knew the gist, and I knew a couple of the deaths, like the log one, just from being a person. That said, I am not a fan of this genre. I wouldn't seek a movie like this out. I do think, did we say that Saw was a movie to watch before you die? We did, right?
I believe we did. You keep talking. I'll check. Yes, we did.
So, okay. So the thing about Saw was that even though I don't like that genre, I was like, wow, this was actually like a really good movie. And I didn't really feel that way about Final Destination. I think that it is a pop culture moment. I think that it is a franchise that works for people that like it. I just didn't feel any differently about this film than I did others in the genre, even though it's not my favorite. And so because it didn't hold up to Saw, I just feel like it's a no for me, dog.
I'm not remotely surprised. Did you have a good time with it?
I felt very disgusted, and now will probably have a fear the next time I fly.
You know what? I'll take that.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Good.
Do you think, like, if Corey says later tonight, oh, I kind of want to see Final Destination 2, would you watch it?
No.
No, that's a shame.
Yeah. If it was like on, I don't know, I just, for me, I think, how do I say this without sounding like a dickhead? There's no good way. My free time is so limited that if I'm going to put on a movie that I have to like engage with or that is going to prevent me from doing other things, it has to be worth it. And so if Corey said to me, I kind of want to watch Final Destination 2, I'd think to myself, you don't want to spend 2 hours like doing literally anything else.
It's
That's
less than 2 hours, Gab. I made that clear earlier.
Sorry, 98 minutes doing anything else. Whereas if somebody was like, hey, do you want to watch The Birdcage? I'd be like, oh, that's a good one. And then I'd be like, yeah, this is worth not doing something else.
Very interesting, because I can tell you which one of these I would pick between this and The Birdcage, and I don't think you'd like my answer.
No.
But this very much is my genre. And you know what? I'm glad I could introduce you to another horror movie that I think is worth watching.
Yeah, I'm glad that I saw it.
If you had to rank them right now between Final Destination, The Thing, and Wait Until Dark, where are you ranking the three?
Probably The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wait Until Dark.
Mm-hmm. She was
Final
so good at Little Blind Girl School.
That was just at least like, back in the day, they didn't have the technology that they had and like the CGI and all like the bullshit and the whatever. Like it was just, it made it, you had to describe it, you had to make the audience feel it.
If I had to I think they're kind of similar in the sense that both are very clever in a very specific way. I think Wait Until Dark has very clever characters. Like all the characters are doing the most clever thing they can. Mm-hmm. Final Destination is a very clever concept. The characters are not that clever. Especially Carter, who is aptly described as a dick, but the concept is clever.
Yeah. I think Saw was really good. That Christmas movie you made me watch was probably the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Come on, you didn't love the angry little Christmas elf zombies?
No, I truly didn't. Even a little bit. With no part of me. I became more Jewish that day.
They told Santa to kiss their shiny red ass cheeks. Come on.
Nope. It did nothing for me.
Ooh, it was fun.
So yeah. Anyway, thanks for that. And we move on.
Yeah, I'll be back with more horror for sure at some point. But it's going to be your pick next, and because it's your pick next, I'm also going to say you say the things that end the podcast now.
All right. Wish me luck. Here we go. So if you would like to send us an email and let us know what you think about this movie or any of the other movies that we have reviewed, you can feel free to drop us one at movies-to-watch-before-you-die@gmail.com. You can also send us a voice message that way if you would like. You can please comment on the YouTube, on the Spotify. Leave us a review. Make sure it's nice.
Comment on the YouTube? Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Dylan, I'm doing my best. In the link tree in the description below, you will find a link to our podcasting friends at the Hall of Pods Network. You will also find links to our merch shop and my Venmo and lots of other cool things. Both of our Instagrams, maybe. There could be like a GoFundMe in there if one of us needs some kind of life-saving operation.
Don't put that evil on me.
I'm just saying. Check it out. And ultimately at the end of the day, we just want you to engage with our shit and just keep us in on the straight and narrow, out of the streets.
If you see me in the bathroom, come in and engage with my shit.
Yeah, on that note.
That feels right.
Yeah.
Alex, nobody has control over life and death unless they are taking lives and causing death. Now, can you promise me that no one else is going to die?
No, I can't. As long as I'm in here, it's out of my control. I'm sorry.